All right, y'all, welcome back to another episode of Thunder Road Running. We've got a very elite athlete with us today, Karisa Nelson. She's currently a member of Brooks Beasts out there in Seattle, doing her thing. Karisa has had an awesome journey into the sport, and hopefully we'll get to dive into it a little bit today. She started in Bruton, Alabama, Greenbow, Alabama, and a town of how many people?
Like 5,000, I think we might be going down, but it's fine.
Wow.
We'll get back up.
A town of 5,000 people. And she was a dual sport athlete, if I'm not mistaken, volleyball and track, right?
Yeah, tennis and
And tennis and everything else you do at a small school. 4:59 in the mile when she graduated, signed with Sanford. And during her time there, she made some massive gains. She went from 4:59 down to 4:48, then from 4:48 to 4:32, winning an NCAA title in the process. And then from 4:32, a year later, she's running 4:06 in the 1500, which is roughly 4:23, 4:24 in the mile. During that time, she had, 5 coaches now?
Okay, so I've had 6 different track coaches for my past 6 track seasons that I've raced. So from high school to pro, I've had a different coach every track season.
That's insane. And has continued to progress. Throughout those 6 years, she's dealt with a couple freak injuries and has bounced back from them famously. So hopefully we get to kind of dive into what makes her so resilient today. So that being said, Karisa, what got you hooked into running? How did you find it?
Well, I guess so. Neither of my parents were runners. They were both athletes. And so they didn't run in high school or college, but when they became adults and had children, they would do fun 5Ks and they'd push us around in a stroller and stuff. And eventually when I was 8 years old, they had me enter a 5K and I ended up running really well for an 8-year-old, 26 flat in a 5K. And I get all this praise. They're like, "Oh, Krista, that was great. You're only 8 and you did this." And I was like, "Oh, I like all this hype. This is great." And, at the time I was a swimmer. And they promised me once I got to the middle school, I could start running. So I was just super excited to get out of the swim pool, honestly. And so I started running and I actually really didn't like it when I first started. I could not stand it. In fact, I'd be jogging a 2-mile and I'd clip the curb on purpose and fall in the grass and pretend I couldn't run anymore. But running's it's grown on me now, and now I love it. So I'm glad that my parents didn't let me quit at that stage in my life.
Yeah. So going from tripping on a curb on purpose to where you are now, at what point did you, really get the bug for training? Because I feel developmental athletes usually have a moment, a specific moment maybe, or a point in time where they go, "Wow, this is awesome." When was that for you?
I probably didn't get the bug until sophomore year of college, to be honest. When I was surrounded by some great athletes and a great coach like you, of course. And, all through high school, I was just trying to get a scholarship to college, pay for college. And then on my freshman year, I got to college. I'm like, all right, I'm just going to do this to pay for school. And then sophomore year, I had people telling me "Hey, you could really be great." And I was like, huh, I always thought so, but I've never really tried. And I'm like, why not try? And then I just fell in love with the process of checking the boxes every day and seeing that progression of getting better and running with my team, the camaraderie. And I just kind of really started to like it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, it sounds like you made a transition from, the external gain of running, doing it because you were getting the praise from your parents and then and doing it for the scholarship. And then, eventually it kind of became a little more maybe internal as far as the motivation, doing it for yourself. So I think we'll see that time and time again as we talk to elite athletes on this podcast. Just the source of motivation comes from just how far can I take my body, at some point,
There's something really noble about just giving your all to something. It's just something really special that not many people can really do. It's just give your all to something and see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a certain amount of fearlessness that goes along with that too. The idea of giving your all for some people can be a little terrifying because what if your all isn't enough?
Exactly. But you got to find it if you really want it, at least.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, answering the question is the whole purpose, right? I mean, I don't know, not to get off on my story here. We'll come back to yours, but that moment for me was getting blown off the track by Bernard Lagat.
Really?
Yeah. The guy blew me off the track at Hayward Field on live TV. And, And I had always thought maybe I could be good enough to hang, you know, with people on that level. He was aging. He wasn't at his peak, obviously,
Yeah.
327 or whatever in the 1500.
No, he was
But
still pretty good.
he was good. And I saw gear I'd never seen before in my entire life and went, oh my gosh, you know what? I'm proud of what I accomplished.
But this is it.
And that was it, you know, and that was it for me. And it was very peaceful to find that, you know, and I think very few people take their bodies far enough to answer that question. So you're right. I think it is noble. Tell me about some of the hurdles from your transition from high school to college, you know?
Yeah, well, honestly, there's a hurdle between every transition. You know, when I transitioned from high school to college, I thought I'd figured it out. You know, I had my transition year freshman year, but then I had a transition year again on my pro year that was almost exactly the same. And it was just tough because, you know, I fell in love with the freedom, the social life, like getting to know people. I had really bad FOMO in my transition. So I would always be out doing stuff 24/7, but like, it's okay to miss that party. You know, it's okay. You don't have to go. Like, take care of yourself. But honestly, like, if I went back with that knowledge, like if somebody had told me that as a freshman, I don't know if I would have changed.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just need that transition year to figure out what you really want, you know, because on my freshman year, I was like, I don't want to miss out. And so I went and did everything. And then at the end of my freshman year, I was like, you know what? I'm actually okay with missing this stuff. But the only reason I knew that is because I went through that process. So my parents wouldn't recommend it because it gave them a heart attack, but I think it was good for me.
As a person. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know, athletes, it seems to be 50-50, seriously. Like when you're recruiting as a college coach, and I mean, I'm sure you were the ideal person in high school. Were you ever, you were never in any trouble or anything?
No, I was a good kid.
you were a good kid, right? And it just took you, you know, you had that freedom and you kind of had to find your own way, find your own path, and that path led you back into the sport. Luckily.
I remember Tiffin sitting me down and was like, I didn't think I recruited a girl like this. And I was like, this is what you got. I'm sorry.
Just hadn't figured it out yet.
Yeah, it was definitely also an adjustment, like getting my butt kicked constantly. But, you know, I never had an ego problem. I was always like, well, I'll get him in the race. You know, I may not get him today, but I'll get him in the race.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what else about the transition? I mean, lifestyle, you're saying was a big thing you had to learn from, but what else? I mean, it's a new level of competition as well. Like
it is. Yeah.
Well,
I was going from winning races to being blown out of the water. And I just like kept working, you know, I just knew my time would come. I was like, you know what, like I'm getting my butt kicked now, but like, you know, there are girls out there who have an incredible first year, but maybe that's just not me. There's also people who come out and have incredible like sophomore, junior, senior years. So I just kept working, and, you know, I knew my time would come, and it did eventually. So you just got to keep working, like do your work.
So it sounds like you had faith in your ability. You know, maybe it wasn't showing at the moment, but you never lost faith in it.
No. You always got to have, like, you always have to believe in yourself, even when no one else does.
Yeah. Where do you think that comes from?
I honestly, I don't know. Maybe it's, I've always believed in myself. I still believe in myself that I can be really great. And I guess it comes from a place where, like, I know I haven't done everything I need to do to be the best athlete I can. So I always feel like there's a higher ceiling I could reach because I haven't hit that point of doing everything I need to do to be the best athlete I can be, which is also like a bad thing. Like I need to do that, but at the same time, it's comforting to see like I haven't done that yet, and I'm still doing pretty good.
Right. I feel like, you know, you're pretty good at being objective with yourself after the fact. Like, hey, like these are the things that I can do better. And you're very good at, I remember at least when I was working with you, you were always very good at kind of already knowing it and going, yep, like I'm going to do these things right this time. You know what I mean? And that's actually really rare, Karisa. And I don't know if you know that or not, but
I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty rare for someone to be able to look themselves in the mirror and go, these are the things I think I can do better. You know what I mean? And then to take confidence in the fact that you targeted those things is awesome. That's next level, you know, that's next level stuff. It's really interesting to hear from you. Well, what about the transition from college to pros? 'Cause I mean, it's a rare one. Not many people get to make that transition. Were there similarities there or
oh, there's definitely similarities. You know, I went in like, oh, like I'm completely locked in. You know, I did great in college. I know what I'm doing. This is going to be fine. It's going to be smooth. But I was completely wrong. Like, I found out a lot about myself in the transition. And one thing is, like, for me to be stable, I have to have like a stable social environment, which everyone on the team is great, but I didn't really know them well. So I start doing like, you know, out of character things, like just things to feel like I fit in more, or like just try to like earn their respect and trust. And
Yeah.
it's taken a year now to settle in, and I just need that like stable social environment where I feel comfortable and confident to really thrive. And I think that's what happened to me freshman year as well. You know, I kind of lose myself a little bit and then find my place in this new social environment, because new training isn't a thing for me. Like, I have new training every track season. Like, that's not the problem.
Except for this season, dadgummit.
Except
You're
for
going to have
this
the
season.
same.
Finally, I honestly, I'm expecting Danny hasn't said, Danny isn't leaving, but I'm expecting something to happen and just have a new coach, because it's happened so many times. Like, if it happened, I'd be like, okay, sure, why not? Of course.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy to think about. Jeez.
No, yeah, so if you have that transition from college to pro, like, don't, you know, to be very careful, because it might be a tough one. You gotta, you know, having all that free time too. Like, I was just laying around watching Netflix, and if all you're doing is running and we're laying around watching Netflix, that's not good for your mental health, because then you become hyper obsessed with running and have nothing else to live for.
Yeah, so maybe a little
I mean,
balance
yeah,
there.
exactly. So I had to find that as well.
What have you found to kind of keep that balance and to keep your brain occupied besides on the
Yes.
task of running?
So I ended up like finding the MCAT. So I want to be a doctor one day, and I was like, well, like, I just got out of school. Now's the time to buckle down, study for a couple months, and go take the MCAT. So that's what I did, and I took it September 28th, the day I broke my toe, right before.
Ah,
My luck is incredible, but and it really helped me stay healthy and strong and not focus on things that didn't matter or hyper obsess about running. And I'm taking a month off, and I'm going to start a new project when November starts.
nice. Okay. I'll be interested to hear what that one is.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Don't know
it's
if I'm
is it.
quite ready to announce it yet.
Oh, okay. We'll stay
Okay, fine.
tuned
I'll do
then.
it. I'll do it. I'm gonna write a book. I'm not gonna disclose any information, but I really want to start writing a book. Not like about my life, but about other stuff.
Fiction or what? Can you give us
I think
the
I'm
genre?
definitely going fiction.
Okay, that'll
There's
be
already too
interesting.
much real world stuff.
I'll buy it. You just tell me when it's coming out.
Thank you. I'll let you know.
So you mentioned you broke your toe, and for those of y'all that aren't familiar with Karisa's journey up to this point, she had some crazy injuries along the way. What was it? Her junior year? Was
Was
it
it
your
my
junior?
after I won nationals, I
So your
broke my foot.
senior year, step off
Yeah.
a curb, broke her foot.
Yeah.
Gets a new coach, has an entire new comeback to action, was a long road, and runs the ninth fastest time in NCAA history, and then tears her hamstring, doing something non-running related, and then comes back from that, and then you threw down a PR this summer, didn't you? Didn't I see you threw down a PR
Only
still?
in the 800, I ran a 2:04. So I had a
Yeah.
PR in the 8, but it's still not like a great pro time. But it's
Okay.
PR.
Okay,
COVID,
well,
so I'll
still
take
rallied back from a
it.
torn hamstring, and then mom moves furniture around, stubs your toe, breaks her toe, and it dislocates. We're talking what, 2 weeks ago, something like that.
3 weeks ago, yeah.
3 weeks ago, and yet she's sitting here talking about it, laughing about it, like life is good. You know what I mean? And I think I really don't want to undersell how well you handle those situations, and I have to ask,
Thank you.
how did you get so good at just kind of rolling with things? You know what I mean? Because none of these injuries were overuse. They weren't, being obsessive over mileage, or, they had nothing to do with nutrition. They were just kind of things that happen. And you just kind of seem to take them in stride. Where does that come from? How did you get so good at that?
Well, honestly, my first real injury was when I broke my foot in 2018 going down the stairs. And, obviously I was devastated. Like, I wanted to come back and defend my title, and like I wanted to graduate and go pro. But then there was something like, there was excitement inside me. Like, it was a challenge of like, oh, she's so good, but can she handle this? And it's like, all right, well, I'm going to handle this, and I'm still going to do incredible, and I'm going to prove everyone wrong, And I think that's part of it is that excitement of overcoming the challenge and proving myself to the track world. And the other part is my identity isn't only with running. Like, I have other things in my life. I have my family and all these relationships that are precious to me that keep me going as well. And other passions like learning.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. So that's actually kind of crazy you said that. Our online training group, we do like, little logbook sessions where we kind of go into some things as a team, and we talk, character development and things like that. That's part of the online coaching stuff I do. And the one-liner for this week was, successful people treat adversity as a challenge or a test, not as a threat. And I mean, that's exactly what you just said. You said, I saw it as a challenge. Like, I'm going to get this done, and I'm going to show you I can get it done well.
Exactly. Anything you put in my way, I'll overcome it. Not anything. Just don't want to. Don't strike me down.
Yeah, right. Well, I got caught up on this topic with an athlete yesterday, and I asked him. I said, to you as an athlete, what do you think the difference is between a challenge and a threat? Like, you know what I mean? Like we're saying, successful people see something like, tearing your hamstring as a challenge. Like, okay, it's torn. What can I do about it? Like, I'm going to show you I can come back from this. And then, the idea of like, maybe someone who's not as successful would see that as threatening, like as like an, oh crap moment, like, maybe panic or, lose their cool or make a bad decision. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So it's like, I don't know. What is it about?
I don't know.
What is it about someone that sees it as a challenge as opposed to a threat, and then kind of what separates the two, so.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, don't strike me down. That's a threat.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to challenge the universe above to take me down, because I know it can if it really wants to. Yeah. But whatever happens.
Just a matter of perception though,
Yeah, I actually, I remember telling, I was sitting down, I think it was with Josh for lunch. I was telling him after I tore my hamstring, like, dude, like, I think I could handle anything. Like, I'm handling this hamstring issue. I think I could take anything. And then the next week I lose my internship after 4 days, and then COVID happens. I'm like, oh my God, like, I brought this upon the world. But guess what? Still handling it. We're still in it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. The timing.
Yeah, COVID's my fault. I'm sorry.
There you go. So I wanted to kind of get into racing with you. And another unique thing about Karisa, y'all, if you don't know her personally, is on race day, she just kind of has a way of bringing it. And I can remember the first year, or the only year we worked together working with you. Yeah. And, the workouts were going all right. Nothing great. You were probably projecting as like a sub-5 girl. Nothing crazy, and then you went and dropped like a 4:48 and almost took the title home at conference. And I was like, holy crap, where did that come from? Like, that's Karisa. Okay. Now, you know what I mean? Like, you always kind of have a way of bringing it on race day. And I won't even say you overperform, because now that I know what's in there, you perform to your level, but you always just know how to bring it out, at the right time. Do you have any routines? Do you have any things you've learned over the years to kind of, that have helped you do that just time and time again? What have you learned about yourself in that space,
I've definitely learned a lot about myself in that space, in that I take racing very seriously. Like, I never want to lose. So going into a race, like, I'm extremely nervous. I have lots of anxiety, and I think that helps fuel me, but it also like crushes me on the inside. So the fueling part is great. And through my life, I've been trying to work through like the crushing part. Like, sometimes my pre-race anxiety is so bad, like, I want to quit. Like, I'll be like stepping on the line and be like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is too much on my like mental psyche. Like, it's too much. But the thing is, as soon as the gun goes off, all the anxiety disappears, and like, I'm focused on the race. I'm focused on my position. And I think that's what really helps me on races, is like, I'm not focused on how bad I'm feeling or how good I'm feeling. I'm focused on where I'm at and how I'm going to win.
Yeah.
And I have different routines. They've changed throughout my life, but I didn't just figure out how to make that soul crushing anxiety go away until recently. I just started taking advice from other people and trying different strategies every race. And I don't know if it's just experience or taking these people's advice, but I finally come to a place where I don't want to quit the sport every time I have a race. So I
Yeah.
love racing. It's just the anxiety of wanting to do well so bad it was crushing me as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I experienced something very similar, and during my pro career, the anxiety was super high, and
Yeah.
eventually it went away for me as well. And I have to wonder for myself, at least, I don't know about for you, if it was when I was separate from a team, like I didn't run for Brooks Beast. I ran for,
Thunder Road
unattached.
running.
Yeah. Thunder Road running. Right. But I feel like the anxiety for me personally had a lot to do with, like, I felt like I needed to contribute to the team so bad, and I didn't want to let those guys down, and I won't say it hindered my performance. It got me amped, just like you're saying, but it definitely didn't leave me until I was kind of out there on my own. You know what I mean? I don't know. Do you think
Yeah.
that has something to do with it? Or, I mean, you're on a team now, but there's not necessarily a
Mhm.
team score at
Yeah.
USA's.
No, I mean, the anxiety is definitely higher, like, at conference meets when I was in college, but
Hmm.
I think it's just the anxiety of either wanting to prove everyone wrong or, like, I don't know, it's just something like I wanna be the best, but I know how hard it's gonna be. I know how much it's gonna hurt, and, like, I know within 400 meters, like, depending on where my mindset is during the race, whether it's gonna be great or whether it's gonna be trash. And
Yeah.
I'm just, like, super nervous about it because, races are extremely painful, and sometimes it's really hard to push through that pain,
Yeah.
and it's gonna hurt no matter what.
Yeah. So, at what point in your career did you learn you could race well on crappy legs?
Mm,
Because this is a
probably
conversation I have
nationals.
all the time. I have this conversation weekly.
Yeah,
Nationals?
probably, when I won nationals because I'm pretty sure it's back-to-back days. There's a prelim and the
Hmm.
final, or semi in the final, and I remember I think it was 4:35 in the final, and I was like, "That's all I had. That's it. That's it. That's all I had." Like, I went as fast as I could in that race, and I barely won the semifinal, and there's a girl in this race who can run 7 seconds faster.
Yeah.
So the next day, I just got on the line. I'm like, "Well, let's just stay near the front and see what happens." And then I won, and I was like, "Wow, that went pretty well. I guess it doesn't matter how I feel.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
all about mindset."
Totally.
Mhm.
You make it seem so easy, Karissa.
It's not.
It's
It's
not.
really not.
For those of y'all listening, that's years in the making. You know what I mean? Different
Yeah,
people
there's
find that out at different points in their
mhm.
careers. Hers just happened to be while she was winning an NCAA title, which, again, isn't normal. So,
No. I mean, maybe it was earlier, but that's, like, when I remember it the most, like, because that's my
yeah.
most memorable race, and I really remember, like, I thought I was gonna, like I had visions of myself not even finishing, and
Right.
somehow I won. But that's
Right.
don't have visions of not finishing, that's terrible advice.
If you could, knowing what you know now, having gone through what you've gone through,
Mhm.
kind of looking back, if you could talk to your high school self. I see these letters all the time from pros. They say, to my high school self,
Yeah, yeah.
like, what would you tell your high school self?
I would probably tell my high school self, like, a couple things. For instance, I would tell my high school self, like, don't just think about being good and doing all this stuff, like, actually do something about it. 'Cause, I really wanted to be good in high school, but I didn't do anything about it. And, I don't think high schoolers should do everything a pro does, but there's definitely more I could have done as a high schooler. I'm really happy with how my career turned out when I went to college, but, like, if you don't have that scholarship option, there's ways you can work harder to get there, and you should ask questions to people who are better than you, and if you don't have them immediately around you, reach out. Like, pros will talk to you if you talk to them. I mean, don't go for the people who have, like, over 100,000 followers, but, like, because they probably get way too many DMs. But, like, go for pros who, like, have less, like, maybe, like, 10 or so,
Yeah.
10,000, not 10 followers, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and I would also tell myself, like, it's okay to work hard, Like, even now, I just learned, like, it's okay to work really, really hard because people are out there telling you, like, "Oh, don't work too hard. This could happen. This could happen. This could happen," which is true. But if you're smart and consistent and you get those, like, calories back in you to recover from that hard work and get the rest you need, it will make you so much better.
Yeah.
And yeah, because I've been scared to work super hard until probably this year. I've started working really hard. Like, I'm biking for 2.5 hours a day. I'm doing core, like, um, and I'm really happy that I'm working that hard. And it's okay to work hard. You just have to replenish yourself and rest.
Right. Yeah. It's about a balance, right? It's always about
Hmm.
a balance. And that's another conversation I have a lot, just regarding mileage, for a high schooler. It's like, what's the right mileage? Well, there is no right mileage.
Yeah.
It's like, what's your athletic history? How strong are you? What sport are you coming from? You know what I mean? Like, how well do you recover? How well do you eat? How well do you sleep? How much do you like it? Right. I mean, for some people's
Yeah,
mental
exactly.
sanity, it's like 2.5 hours on a bike would be a death wish. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Old me would have never done that before, but I just reached another level of self-discipline after seeing Alio on the bike for 4 to 5 hours a day. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I could do 2.5. I could do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And I think that speaks to the environment as well that you're in. If hard work is the norm, it raises the bar. You know what I mean? The
Yeah.
entire
Yeah,
the entire group matches it.
I look at her and I'm like, I don't deserve to win anything if I don't work like at least half as hard as this girl, because she is a tank.
Yeah. Yeah. And that speaks to Alio's dedication as well.
Oh yeah, I'm lucky to live with her.
Yeah, it's great. It's an awesome roommate. Well, Karisa, thank you so much for coming on. It's great having
Hey,
you.
anytime.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me. It was a
we'll
good
have to
time.
do it again soon.
Oh, of course, anytime. As long as I get that Thunder Road running gear.
Oh, it's on the way. It'll be in the mail tomorrow, I promise.
Perfect, perfect.